Good morning. Today we're taking a look at more PirateSoftware Slot. Last time I made a video about him, he was playing Animal Well, which is a really difficult puzzle game, seemingly blind and making statements such as, "We don't look up the answers in this house chat, because where the hell's the fun in that?" And then he proceeded to read up the answers from his chat. That left a sour taste in a lot of people's mouth, and he's been getting some heat other than that lately. But this time he's made some really unfortunate statements about Stop Killing Games, where he just misinterpreted the whole thing. Now, Stop Killing Games, for those who don't know, is an initiative about consumer rights. Basically wants developers to future-proof their live service games within reason. Let's say you buy Diablo or get microtransactions in Warframe, it would kind of suck if they just suddenly shut down the game and you lost all your values. The initiative kind of aims to avoid that, even in a limited capacity like an offline mode or something like that. But the funny thing about this is just how wrong PirateSoftware gets everything. Like, there's a point in the video where it says on his monitor, "Stop Killing Games does not, in red, want to do this." And his reaction is, "Guys, that's crazy. I can't believe they intend to do that. They can eat my entire ass. That's so bad, guys." It's right there. Since then, PirateSoftware has doubled down on Twitter, deleted the tweet because of backlash, and then doubled down again with a new tweet. And now Ross, the guy behind the initiative, made a response to PirateSoftware because he wanted to clear up all the misconceptions around it. And it's a complete show, so enjoy.
Your house, we're gonna drive it over tomorrow.
Man, not my house!
Sloppers. You guys weren't talking about this, were you? No, this is not what you were talking about. No, we're talking about Stop Killing Games. Oh, was that a YouTube video? You're slop, Mr. Bino.
Okay, I really don't want to do this next part, but it's become a liability. Our biggest critic by far is YouTuber and streamer PirateSoftware, who goes by Thor. If your only exposure to Stop Killing Games has been this video, then you've been misinformed. This video is by someone who does not understand the campaign, has been trying to stop it, and has been making up what it is about. I am not saying that lightly. I will prove it in a minute. Now you might be thinking, okay, so some YouTuber got something wrong on the internet. So what? See, that was my thinking too. The problem is how incredibly influential this YouTuber has been. Remember that list of coverage on the campaign? Well, best I can tell, Thor's coverage has been bigger than literally anyone else on those lists, except Asmongold. And the only video Asmongold had on this bigger than Thor's was about Thor's video. So for all practical purposes, Thor here has been the #1 voice on the campaign, and he's been lying about what it is. That's a bit loaded though. In this case,
What did I expect? Like, genuinely, what did I expect?
I'm using the second definition of lie. I have no evidence it's the first.
To create a false or misleading impression, right?
This video came out right as we were building momentum. Then, except for one boost in Germany, the signatures started drying up like clockwork. This put me in kind of a no-win scenario too. Because if I ignored it, then a lot of people were going to get misinformed about the campaign. But if I did a response video, which is not something I wanted to do anyway, then it might look like drama farming, which could understandably turn off a lot of people from the campaign. Because it's not about that at all. So I quickly made this video trying to clear up all misconceptions and concerns about the initiative, with timestamps for everyone's questions, hoping the truth would eventually come out. I can see now that was a mistake. I should have just embraced the drama. To this day, I'm still getting frequent comments and emails about the same falsehoods about the campaign that originated in this video. Well, now I have nothing to lose.
What? Is there like he might go over it, I guess. But is there like a rundown of like I don't know, I don't really understand like what specifically like is the. We will probably figure it out.
If we don't get the signatures, then
What is the disagreement here? What did he say that's a lie, and what are they actually about? Like,
none of this matters anyway.
there's a rundown.
So if this campaign is failing because of me not talking about this, then I'll at least correct history here on the way down. I'll get this over with and go over what I think are the biggest points of PirateSoftware's videos.
There we go.
I'm not going to go over everything because collectively Thor's made hours of video on both me and the movement. I'd be here forever. Believe me, I could address smaller things too, and kind of already have. All right, let's start. Okay, point number 1. Thor does not understand what Stop Killing Games is. Here it is in his words.
So for those who don't understand, the Stop Killing Games initiatives is basically, we don't want single-player games to have DRM that the developers can turn off and thus render the single-player games inactive anymore. This is what they want to change. They need to be specific that they're talking about single-player games that do not need a server to support them. And as much as they want it to be about specifically games where it is a single-player game that has always online functionality, it would impact every live service game that exists, instead of just targeting single-player, always online games.
No, that's not what it is. Stop Killing Games includes single-player games, but nothing about it is specific to them. He completely made that up, and I have no idea where he got that impression. This is what I mean. It's harder for gamers to understand this because they come with so many assumptions. It's like that saying about doctors being the worst patients. So let's clear this up. It's the first line on the website. Stop killing games as a consumer.
Legality of publishers. Sorry.
Movement started to challenge the legality of publishers destroying video games they have sold to customers. But the movement includes all this stuff from earlier, and he was mostly talking about the initiative. Well, the short version is the initiative is about requiring publishers to have end-of-life plans for games they've sold to customers in the future. So when they shut them down, customers can continue running them without their support. The long version depends on what kind of transaction is being made. As you can see, it's not easy to explain in a soundbite. But if you notice, we don't make a distinction between single-player and multiplayer games. That's because the law doesn't either. So why make this even harder? Both the movement and the law are making distinctions on how games are sold. Also, that part he said about it affecting all live service games? Yes and no. It would affect most live service games in the future, but the initiative is not retroactive. So that's one thing Thor doesn't understand, but he also seems to think this is about converting multiplayer games to single-player. Once again, he made that up, and I have no idea why he thought that.
Transitioning an entire multiplayer server-side...
He's thinking, Thor here is thinking what I thought initially too, where it's like, well, what are they gonna do about MMOs? Are they just gonna make it a single-player game that you can run on your computer? This is like the like gut reaction response that I had when people brought it up to me, and here he's like, essentially just stating that as a fact. Is this like an Asmongold moment where he just like I thought a thing, so it's true. They're stupid, and you just run with it. Is that it? Like, what the It's kind of starting to seem like it, because, like, how else would he misinterpret it? Like, where did he, as he's saying it, like, where did he get from, where did he, read that it was just about single-player games and DRM? Did one guy in his chat tell it to him? Did he read it on Twitter or on Reddit and just like, oh yeah, that's true? He just assumed it, and I was like, yeah, no, that's it. I'm not gonna read anything. I'm just gonna, no.
Game into a single-player video game, which means rebalancing the entire experience around single player, rebuilding everything in the entire game. How are you going to do that with Final Fantasy XIV? You're just going to make all the raids soloable? Imagine the day that World of Warcraft...
This again, it's not retroactive. It's not. It's future. You know. Oh man.
Shuts down, and suddenly you have to make it a single-player game for every individual that ever bought the game. That's what they're asking for.
No.
Because they would have to sunset live service games as a single-player experience. The idea that suddenly you need to make every single live service game playable single-player offline? No, dude.
Correct. No. This one is particularly baffling to me because I've heard most counter-arguments before, but until Thor, I've never heard this one. That we want the industry to convert all multiplayer games into single-player ones. I keep saying it, you never know where gamers are going to take this.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single-player games.
Oh, he's so close. He's so close to getting it.
It is vague, and because of that, it would
He never has that light bulb moment. Well, he is correct in that statement. It's almost as if that's not what the initiative is asking for. But those were his streams with a smaller audience. What does he say in his big YouTube video with over 1 million views that he had time to research?
If we're trying to kill off the practice of developers putting together a live service game, pitching it as a single-player experience, and then taking away support in the future...
now he's changed it again and is making up how it's about single-player games are advertised. What is he doing?
It needs to be specific about the business practice it's trying to defeat, which is specifically companies that are doing this under the guise of it being a single-player game, but adding online-only functionality that is not necessary and doesn't add any gameplay elements. That's the problem.
No, that's not it at all.
And there are some people who say, well, just make it all single-player.
Like
well,
you?
Explain that doesn't make any sense in the first place.
Like, what the fuck? He just didn't read what it's about, and he's just saying, like, oh, it's bad because it's bad because this... He didn't make a straw man thing. This is not a straw man. We're beyond that. This is like a quantum entangled man. It's just an entire ass pull. What the f?
If you're making it all single player, you have to carve off all of that, and it's developer time and money. These are two different ideologies, and that's okay to have two different ideologies. I just won't agree with it.
But those aren't the ideologies. Nothing in the initiative is asking to convert games to single player.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single player games.
Yeah, so why does he keep bringing it up? This is a total red herring.
If we don't like the idea of live service games as a whole, I get it. Don't play live service games then. Don't agree to those terms.
No, he's getting a new thing wrong now. We're not against them existing. We're against them being destroyed with no recourse for the customer. Just use logic. If we didn't like them in the first place, why would we care if they're being destroyed? He says he gets it, but he doesn't.
Let's talk about the actual bad business practices. In the case that a studio is making a live service game, and they sell it to you as a product, they say that you are purchasing the game, or you are buying the game, when in reality you're actually purchasing or buying a license to that game, I think that we should be fighting about that. The initiative is not trying to call that out specifically. It's trying to say that all games need to stay in a functional, playable state.
Yes!
Which is not calling out the language that is being used to manipulate the player. Call that out specifically.
Okay, I don't know if he's doing this intentionally. I'll be charitable and assume he's not. But this is some serious obfuscation. He's complaining that the initiative isn't focused on another topic he made up. I mean, what is that logic? Hey, the initiative doesn't address how Capcom changed the look of Dante in the Devil May Cry reboot either. That may as well be what he's saying there. I am not aware of a game on the planet with a license agreement that says you are not buying a license. Our problem is not with licenses failing to inform people. Blizzard says they can take away your purchase for no reason. That sounds pretty clear.
Yeah, there we go. There you go. I agree. Albino Vivo. I agree. Signed.
Clear to me. Our problem is those terms are so hostile to consumers and the medium that they should be taken off the table entirely. This needs regulation. Forget video games. If you look at basic commerce for hundreds of years.
That's fair. Yeah. See, I was talking about it earlier. How like when you sign an EULA to a game, you don't read it, but in the fine print, if you like are an insane person to actually read all of it, there's just a lot of stuff there which like says that we can just take the game away from you. We can delete the game from your computer. If you hack in our game, we have the legal right to wife. Like, to what end, dude? Like, how many of these are we gonna have to agree with to play the game? You're asking the EU, which is a bunch of boomers, to do that. The EU is giga-based, by the way. I know... Listen, chat. I have a USB-C plug-in on my iPhone, okay? That's thanks to the EU. This is like... the lightning port is like a insanely predatory business practice from Apple. The EU said, no, if you want to sell this to our continent, it has to be not retarded. And Apple was like, fine. And then they had to do it. And that's basically what we're asking for here. You want to sell games to our European customers? Okay, don't them in the ass. If you cannot in the ass, you can sell the game. Those are the that's what they want.
When you paid money, you either got to keep what you paid for, or if it was a service, you were told when your access ends. The vast majority of online-only games do neither of those. The games industry is trying to upend basic commerce. I think you have to go back to feudalism before neither of those things are true. Why even have consumer laws if you have no rights?
If you try to tell me that every studio needs to run their live service game indefinitely or not want to run one at all, then no one's going to run them.
Oh no! He wheeled out that line about publishers having to support the game forever. He was literally watching the video earlier where it says it won't do that. It big.
What the initiative would not do. Require publishers to give up intellectual property rights. Require publishers to give up the source code. Require endless support. Really? What the fuck is up with this guy? Dude, this guy gets off of like being this like intellectual about like, I'm a game developer. I develop games. I worked at Blizzard for 8 years and I have very, very nuanced opinions about video games and development of them. I've seen that bit in like South Park about how Family Guys make jokes where they're just like basically randomized by like manatees picking balls out of a slot.
Family Guy is written by manatees? Of course. It all makes sense now.
There goes Gretchen. She's coming up with an idea. Oh, she came up with Gary Coleman. The idea balls drop into the joke combine and form a part of the new script.
No one's saying that. No one is saying that. Hello.
Big letters. That wasn't enough.
It literally like the yellow paint doesn't work on this guy, right? This is the red paint. This is the yellow paint of presentations. It would not do this. There's 3 key points here. He didn't get it.
We just can't stop gamers from going there, even when we spell it out. I admit, guys, this part hurts. To see the biggest voice on this issue get it wrong again and again and again, then put that same wrong information on blast to a far bigger audience that we can reach. It hurts. He doesn't get it. He doesn't understand what we're asking for. Now, to be fair, it sounded like he was getting a little closer in this video. Yeah, despite being called 2, it's at least the 4th video he did on this.
You want that to stay in a functional playable state. That means the devs have to release either server binaries or somehow carve off the game to be a single-player experience now.
That's better, but he's still talking about converting the single-player right to the end. He never completely got it. So PirateSoftware did not understand the initiative. Maybe still doesn't. That means the majority of his critique is about things it would not do, like kill all MMOs.
If that passes, enjoy never playing an MMO again for the rest of your life. And taking away from every other person that plays MMOs.
It really wouldn't. And I've explained why in that video, but the short version is companies would have to stop liking money for that to happen. Lots of money. But his number one criticism is that he thinks the initiative is vague.
Incredibly vague. Too vague. Very vague and vague. It's vague. It's vague. That is vague. Too vague. Vaguely vague. Incredibly vague. Vaguely worded. Vague. 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 This is vague.
This goes on. Well, from Thor's perspective, his logic is pretty sound for this part. But the thing about logic is it's only as good as your assumed truths. And he said multiple times now that he thinks the initiative is only about single-player games. So since he's expecting the thing he made up, but that's not what the initiative is asking for, he thinks it's vague. Because for him, it is.
Nowhere in there does it say that it's directly targeting always online single-player games. It is vague.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at that long definition again, let's add a subsection just for Thor. Single-player games with an online DRM check. Those would already fall under this broader category. So Thor is expecting this. Again, I don't know why, but instead he's seeing an initiative that covers all of this. That's why he calls it vague 50 times. The thought that we want what we're asking
Games sold as a one-time purchase with no stated expiration date that do not require a connection to the publisher or affiliated parties in order to function. Then it's a shutdown. No impact. Yeah, single-player games. No DRM, nothing. It's whatever. Games sold as a one-time purchase with no stated expiration date that do require a connection to the publisher or affiliated parties to function. Publisher will be required to implement an end-of-life plan that their support would no longer be necessary to run the game once it's shut down. If I'm understanding this correctly, if this passes in the EU and a game company wants to launch an MMO in the future, then they would have to have like an end-of-life plan so that their support would no longer be necessary to run the game once it's shut down, which would either be an offline mode or something. Yeah, basically an offline mode. Yeah, offline mode or some sort of self-host. But for an MMO, that's a bit tricky, isn't it? Running an MMO server is pretty like that's technical as shit. If it's just like a game like Valheim, for example, that's like you just host a server, Terraria server. You can host that pretty simply. We can host an MMO server. Private servers exist, yeah, they do, man, they do for sure. But it takes a lot of like effort to run one of those. I guess they could like release a server's build thingy, but that's yeah. There would have to be something in that case. For example, MapleStory? MapleStory has had like a bunch of private servers made. They got shut down. They get made. They get shut down. Someone reverse engineered the entire game and made their own exe to launch the to play the game and use their assets and made a bunch of custom content and then they got shut down. But then MapleStory released like MapleStory Worlds, which is like a way to host custom servers in a kind of scuffed fashion right now because it's a bit early. But essentially, it lets server hosters earn from those servers a certain amount, and then Nexon takes also some money. So they're like leasing out their game for people to host servers, and then the owners of the servers make money from it, and then Nexon also takes some money of it. So a solution like that's like I think is a good starting point for stuff like this, right? Where they this is I think Nexon in that case is entitled to I would say most of the money from a private server like that, because it's literally their game. They made the game. But if you and they don't want to host the game anymore. But if you want to host it privately, you can do it and you can make money off of it. But they will take I would say a majority of the money. That would be I think that would be a good solution to this. But it's something we're starting to see. But that's a way I can see this be like viable for businesses, right? Because they don't necessarily want to give up their server hosting software and just let someone else run the game and make money off of it when there's their game. So, they take a cut. RuneScape dabbled with the idea too and shut it down. Yeah, but the thing is that RuneScape is still running. RuneScape is still like there's still MapleStory is too, but they've realized that MapleStory they have patched the game. So much that no one wants to play it anymore. Like MapleStory is unrecognizable right now to what it used to be, and like it's just shit. And so people are usually hosting like previous versions of the game with custom content, and that's peak, super good. But yeah, like they don't get it.
Asking for, and not the thing he made up, seems to have never entered his head. The initiative is trying to stop the destruction of games. That's the whole point. It covers the types of games most in need of saving. If we only covered this tiny subsection, that would save maybe 1% or less of games that get destroyed. This would do almost nothing. I'm not saying there isn't one, but I literally can't think of a game that meets this criteria. Every game I know of with single-player content that's been destroyed has been designed to run server-side, not locally. Older ones like that tend to have the DRM cracked, which is not an ideal solution, but that does stop game destruction. And newer ones with the Nuvo or something tend to have it removed by end of life. So I say less than 1%, but this might save 0% of games. I'm not sure. The initiative is actually not that vague. Though to be fair, some people did get hung up on this part. A reasonably playable or functional state. True, that is not 100% specific. There are reasons for that. You know how in law, police can stop a suspect with reasonable suspicion? Or a jury finds someone guilty beyond all reasonable doubt? That's because the number of situations you face are so varied that the law has to inject some common sense somewhere. It's the same with games. A multi-million-dollar MMO is a different animal from a budget arena shooter. It won't work making highly specific laws. That's one half of it. The other half of it is this sentence is an olive branch to publishers. I've heard complaints this isn't specific enough. Okay, but you know what the alternative to this would be? Here, I'll show you. The game must be fully functional and contain 100% of all features as advertised. So as a publisher, which requirement would you rather meet? More importantly, this sentence shows the EU Commission that we're acting in good faith and trying to find a balance. I think some of the people asking for this to be more specific may not realize what they're asking for. I know some won't believe this, but a hell of a lot of thought went into the wording of the initiative. I think it's almost perfect. See, the initiative isn't even a proposed bill, it's a negotiation. Our side says we want games to be functional when publishers end support, so they need end-of-life plans. The industry's position is going to be against whatever we write and claim they need no regulation whatsoever. Then the EU Commission gets to decide who is more in the right here. The Citizens Initiative is the opening offer in these negotiations. Trust me, the industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars will make its position known to the EU. We don't have to make their case for them. So for this negotiation, simple is good. That's why we're straight and to the point for what we want. Then the industry will argue against that. Then the EU Commission might look for compromises. You don't start a negotiation with a bunch of compromises because then it'll get so watered down you won't save anything. Oh, and that long definition list are actually logical extensions of the simpler language used in the initiative. It's actually kind of slick. Plus, there's a character limit on these things. The EU Commission doesn't want you trying to cover 50 edge cases at this phase. Alright, so Pirate Software did not understand the initiative. But point two, he also did not make it easy for the truth to get out. I had never heard of him prior to all this, but during the campaign, I had dozens of people contacting me, telling me how wise and reasonable he is, how he's really pro-consumer and represents developers, and I should really talk to him. Great, let's do it. So this was my first encounter of him.
Oh shit, no, this is actually really dumb. It's used car salesman garbage. This is shit. It's shit. Not only do I not want to back this, I'm going to actively tell people not to. That is awful. That is a horrible goddamn direction. That's awful, dude. No, eat my entire ass. The level of stupid that I just had to receive was like sitting on Twitter for 12 hours. This shit sucks. That's a really stupid ass move. That's an incredibly stupid ass move. I think this is ass. This is complete garbage. All of this can eat shit then. I drop the mask entirely. I have no qualms about that. They can eat my entire ass. The whole thing. That sounds stupid as shit.
Oh yeah, I can see why people like him. It's like listening to Mr. Rogers. As you can imagine, we've been less than thrilled that Thor here has become the dominant voice of the campaign. Especially when he
would nice to like see exactly what he said that to, but whatever.
Doesn't understand it. Though I did find the used car salesman part amusing, since if people could read my mind, they would understand how much I dread anything resembling sales or marketing, or just trying to push things on people who aren't interested in them. I'm not exaggerating when I said I've hated having to run this campaign.
This is the most uneducated take I have ever seen in games.
Now as for that one, I do have a bachelor's in criminal justice, which might explain why I'm coming at this from very different angles than he is. You know, focusing on people having rights and checking what consumer law actually says, rather than what's most convenient for publishers. Though I think I know where that comment is coming from because I've gotten it before. Here's what I think is happening. Online-only games have a client and a server, but a lot also have middleware that developers don't have permission to distribute to customers, or depend on microservices they have no control over, and the server software isn't even designed to run on a customer system. You can't just cut out the middleware and remove the microservices because they're integrated too deeply. That would still leave the game bricked and could take months to fix and be a lot of work. So I think some devs think we're saying all they need to do is just release the server binaries at end of life, and yay, everything is solved. And that's why they think we're ignorant. Well, for some games that could work, but not ones like these. Plus, that's not what we're saying. First off, we're not even mandating the methodology because, again, doing that could run afoul of copyright law. Second, this whole diagram is looking at a game that exists right now and was never designed to have an end-of-life plan. Those might not be salvageable. So what we're saying is let's take a game in the future. No code has been written yet. It's still just a design document. Okay, so we have the client portion as usual. Then we have the server logic. Now we'll bring in our usual middleware and microservice vendors. Nope, stop. Now, the EU says we can't just brick customer purchases like we've been doing if we want to sell our games there. So that means we can't keep making all these same deals the way we have been. Now we need to renegotiate with the vendors to allow for an end-of-life build with their software. Or redesign things to make the microservices easier to sever at end of life. And vendors probably will renegotiate. Otherwise, they'll start losing sales to everyone who wants to sell games in the EU. But say a vendor refuses anyway. Then we need to go with vendor B, who will offer EU-compliant solutions because they will be happy to take money away from their competitor, vendor A. Or maybe we need to abandon one of the microservices altogether and come up with an in-house alternative that is compatible with an end-of-life plan. And if the server can't run on consumer hardware, well, maybe now we code it in a way that's more versatile and can be compiled to run a stripped-down version with less features for the customer machine at end of life. Or hey, if that's not doable, then we scrap that, but still give customers some form of server software at end of life because now we've planned for this, and inform them it requires specialized hardware, and they're on their own for getting it working. And these are all just suggestions. The publisher would get to decide how they want to comply. Thor is not alone in developers trashing what I just said. I don't know why, but some of the nastiest insults I've received on the entire campaign have been when I try to explain this is what we're asking for. This part in particular triggers some people to no end.
That video made me actually mad. Like real mad. Not like fake memes mad, like actually mad. Like I'm actually mad.
Upsetting people is not our goal, by the way. We actually want this transition to be as easy as possible for publishers and developers. However, we are stubbornly against proposals that won't stop commercial games being destroyed, because that's the whole point. Anyway, you heard Thor's comments for me. In light of that, I think I've been pretty diplomatic. I am just trying to get this initiative passed. If that means I have to get insulted all along the way, okay. So with that in mind, I reached out to him, not expecting to change his mind, but to at least clarify things since he got so much wrong. If you're gonna hate us, at least hate us for what we're actually doing, not for things that are made up about us.
I got a message from Ross. There were many other misunderstandings in your video. It's clear that you hate the initiative, and I doubt I would change that. That is correct. I would encourage you to at least hate it for what it actually is. I do.
He says that so confidently. Oh yeah, you knocked it out of the park. You understood everything.
In other words, the customer is told explicitly that their access ends at the time of payment. Most live service games do not do this, which could run afoul of EU law. Most is patently incorrect.
Patently incorrect? Okay, for those who don't know much about live service games, that's like saying the Earth isn't round. He says verifiably false things so confidently. If his viewers don't know any better, how can I blame anyone for believing what he says about the initiative when he talks like that? It's incredible. And he does not wish to discuss this with me, or anyone else in the initiative. Why not?
Would you consider reaching out and talking to Ross about it? No. And the reason why is because I found his entire statement over the YouTube incredibly disingenuous.
Yes, this issue which has bothered me since I was
Why
a
don't you
teenager
just talk
and I've
to him?
spent 10 years on trying to push back against is me being disingenuous. Where is this coming from? Well, it comes from a slide I had in my promotional video, the half-joke slide. He hated this, and I think he may have a rather privileged view of politics.
You want to put together legislation because it's the right thing to do.
We did!
Not because you can convince legal representatives to do it no matter what.
It's both! These are not mutually exclusive things!
The idea that we're going to go through this because it's an easy win, but not the right win? No, dude.
Oh, God. So he misunderstood the initiative and misunderstood our intentions. And in his words, this is why he refuses to have a dialogue with the movement. So now I have to address it. Let's keep it basic. He calls me disingenuous, implying I don't believe what I'm pushing for, that this is some sort of con. That's uncharitable to the point of being silly. Besides video evidence going back 10 years, this is not a hard concept to grasp. I hate seeing creative works needlessly destroyed when people are trying to save them, and video games are where I see that happen the most. Of course I believe in what I'm advocating for. Maybe start from there. I'm a little surprised that didn't sink in.
The idea of getting it to pass with an easy win instead of pass because it's good is a problem to me. Absolute problem.
Misunderstanding things for content. Are they actually doing that? Like, Asmongold does it a lot. This guy does it a lot. What do they have in common? They're fucking huge and very influential. If you do it a lot, it gets normal. But yeah, but like as he's saying here, like in the message we just saw. Hi, this is Ross. The guy in the video responded to at 10:24:00. Based on your response, I think there's a combination of values clash and there's a misunderstanding on much of what we're asking for. For example, World of Warcraft would likely be an exempt from this measure since it's considered under the law as a true service. In other words, the customer is told explicitly when their access ends at the time of payment. Most live service games do not do this, which could run afoul in EU law. I was like, nope, that's not true. That's not true.
That's not how politics works. Do you think things pass because they're good ideas? Tell that to people who still have lead in their water. A lot of gamers are jaded with good cause. The industry has been shaking them down every which way. The perception that it's hopeless to protect our rights against billion-dollar conglomerates is often correct. If I told people this would pass just because it's a good idea, I wouldn't believe me. This slide is a half joke, but it's also some totally cynical reasons that are often true to let people know we have a chance and this isn't utterly...
Politicians mostly don't care about video games. The law is already unclear on this practice. Initiative is in line with other consumer policies. It's a diversion from the more serious topics.
Hopeless. Do you think I or most people in the movement give a damn why politicians might pass something good? What we care about is that they pass something good. We don't need them to be true believers. We need them to pass good law. This is as soft as it possibly gets in politics. I think most politicians would find this slide funny. It sounds like he's offended I have a low opinion of the political process. Well, I'm the one in the trenches here. I'm not sure if he's upset at me or just upset at reality. Yeah, I am too. Anyway, he went on to delete my reply to him. Thankfully, someone backed it up, and I figured, okay, he hates this. It was thrust upon him by his viewers. I'll just leave him be. Well, that was a mistake on my part, because then he went on to make more videos about me in the movement, now reaching over 1 million views, still broadcasting the wrong information on us. I guess I'm being petty here, but this is alien thinking to me. Why would you call someone out, then run away from a conversation with them when they say there's a misunderstanding, but then go on to make more videos calling them out? Sir, that is not gentlemanly behavior. All right, I know this is going on too long, so I'll get to the final point. Thor misunderstood the initiative, misunderstood our intentions, and misinformed a lot of people about both. But the irony is, I think he would have hated it even more if he did understand it. Because first, he doesn't see any of this as a problem.
Gaming isn't in need of saving. No, it's not a form of planned obsolescence. It's called the game no longer being profitable and we turn it off. No games are being destroyed here. These are live service games.
Yeah, you heard him. No games are being destroyed. Does he just say anything? Is that why he's popular? More to the point, and what I wish he included in his main video, is he supports games being destroyed.
A very strange demand.
Literally just saying.
Where live service games should live forever. Whether in the hands of the developer or otherwise. And I can't get behind that shit. I think live service games getting sunsetted is fine. I've always thought that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I have no problems with the end of a video game.
See, I wish he started his big YouTube video with that message instead of deleting it. Instead, he presented himself as pro-preservation.
Oh, you bought a game? You bought the video game, and then like 5 years later it's gone? What can you imagine? Like you bought Elden Ring, and then what like 5 years later they just delete it. You can't use it anymore. No, this doesn't work. Nope, it was connected to online or something, or multiplayer or whatever. No, you can't use it. It's not existing. Extreme example. They're not really accurate, but you know what I mean. Like
creation and not wanting the medium to die out.
It's incredibly important to me that we keep making games and that the next generation has the tools to do so their medium doesn't die out. And it never will. And that's the whole intention of all of this.
So he doesn't want games to die out, except he's fine with that. I think there's some cognitive dissonance going on there. And he's...
Well, obviously, what like PirateSoftware it means here is like what I thought in the beginning. Like my gut reaction was like, well, you shouldn't really make it more... You shouldn't make it harder for people to make games, right? You shouldn't put restrictions on making games. Like if you're gonna make a game and sell it, it has to be this, right? Like that's where it's coming from, I'm guessing. Where like you should let people make games. It's art, and you should just let people do it. Blah blah blah. But it's like that's not the point. The point is that like people in the people, I mean, not just in the EU, but like all over the place are like, you know, the game you bought, it dies. You don't see it anymore.
He's
like,
against killing single-player games that only have a DRM check, okay? But then says people who buy single-player games with more than a DRM check are stupid, and he doesn't play those.
I don't buy games that are always online single-player games. I refuse to play those because it's stupid.
That's some tough talk coming from a fan of Diablo 4.
It's actually really freaking good, dude. The game's fantastic. Itemization is great. Systems design is great. Storyline has been fantastic. The characters are good. The voice acting is great.
So is he saying he wouldn't have played Diablo 4's single-player campaign if it didn't have forced multiplayer also, even though he's praising it and appears to be playing solo? Or is he saying that people that just wanted to play Diablo 4 single-player are stupid? I admit I got lost on his stance there, but what's more clear to me is we're not on the same side. Here's a list of some popular games that are all at risk of being destroyed at some time in the future. The Stop Killing Games movement sees any of these being destroyed as a problem, and they're exactly the kinds of games that would start being protected if the initiative passed. Now, a lot of these do have single-player campaigns, but I believe they all require more than a simple DRM check. He says over and over that his problem with the initiative is the wording, and it's vague. But there is no wording he would like that also saves games like these, because he's on the opposite side of this. If he's totally fine with games like these being disabled forever, well, guess what? That's the position of the industry causing this entire problem in the first place. And that's the final point. Thor says he disagrees with how we're going about trying to end...
Yeah, I mean, I don't like... I most of those games I don't really care for either. Although, yeah, Path of Exile, less than a Diablo... Yeah, I mean, there's a lot... There are a bunch of, like, pretty... Is it Diablo?
Any of these being destroyed is a problem. Right. And they're Diablo exactly 4. The kinds of games that would start being protected if the initiative passed.
It's not... Listen, man, it's not my type of game. But, I mean... If you do... These are all games you buy as a one-time purchase. Like, you buy the game. You buy Fallout 76. You buy Warframe. You buy Diablo Immortal. Like, you pay for the game to get in. If the game is free to begin with, who cares? You don't pay for it. But if you pay to get into the game, you buy the game, free, Warframe is free. Is Warframe free? If you looked at the clauses earlier, Warframe has microtransactions, doesn't it? If you do spend money on the game on some account. So at that point, well, where does your money go? They can just decide to delete it. That was also in the blue page with all of the clauses and whatever, like here. Microtransactions for games sold as a one-time purchase with no stated expiration date. The publisher would have to be required to implement the end-of-life plan when support ends so that the customer's microtransaction would not be permanently disabled. This would necessitate having the game it was sold for in a functioning state, even if the customer might not be entitled to the game directly. So it's there.
Like these being disabled forever, well, guess what? That's the position of the industry causing this entire problem in the first place. And that's the final point. Thor says he disagrees with how we're going about trying to end game destruction, but he also disagrees with the goal. But
the exception was like completely offline games that doesn't require a connection to anything, and like free games that are actually completely free and doesn't have microtransactions, right?
No, wait, I want to be fair. He's only against 99% of it minus that tiny provision he made up. So once you understand that, then of course it makes sense that he's against the Stop Killing Games movement. Because we're trying to stop killing games. Now, if you're in Thor's camp and think killing all these games is fine and are as things should be, okay, then it's just a values clash. And yeah, you'll hate the initiative too. I'm not trying to tell you otherwise. But if you think you might have been misled about what the initiative is, hey, maybe look at it again. Tell others about it. Help undo some of the damage. There is still time. It closes July 31st. Thor lying about what the campaign is about, remember, second definition, has caused more damage to it than anything else I'm aware of. Now, I've heard some people say, no, it caused a Streisand effect and led to more coverage. Well, if you look at the signature rate, it suggests the opposite. I've also been told a big streamer, like in that group I mentioned earlier, you know, the kind that are so big they could end this, avoided talking about Stop Killing Games because of Thor's take on it. Remember, at the time he did this, PirateSoftware was a well-respected developer looked up to by the internet community for having good takes on gaming. And I was, and still am, the weirdo with no credentials other than not wanting games destroyed. So with Thor being seen as the smartest guy in the room and firmly against the initiative, I think that led some internet figures to not want to touch this, lest they be seen like a fool in the eyes of Thor. Now, as I understand it, that risk may have lowered since then, but it doesn't really matter if nobody else talks about it, because he was there to kill the momentum when we needed it the most, and we never got it back. Okay, that's it on him. I did not enjoy having to do that segment, but I've had to do a lot of things on this campaign I don't like. Believe it or not, my goal was not to tarnish Thor's reputation. That's incidental.
Goddamn.
I don't care. He can be hailed as a national hero, whatever. The goal was to expose the damage done to the campaign to try and fix it.
Well-respected developer. Yeah, but at some point he was, like, in when it started popping up on YouTube Shorts and you know, for a point in time. But then he had the first disaster with Outer Wilds. He's got the thing with Animal Well. He did a bunch of. He had like his little scandal. Or the WoW raid that set it all off. Right, when he roached out, his roached out, that's when it all fell apart. And now, yeah, that crash out just sent it all downhill. And now that's actually the fact that happened is kind of good, because then there's actually hope for this campaign, because people are like, oh, this guy, the guy who lies about being good at video games and being very clever about you know, or at least I would also say it's the second definition. Whenever he like lies, it's always the second definition of like misleading. Where it's like being when he played the Animal Well in the video, he would present it as like he is solving it, but then whenever someone criticizes that, I can see like, well, I had chat on all the time. But and again, the video is just like, oh, I can't believe I did that. You guys thought I was crazy. You know, that whole thing. So it's just misrepresentation. I can't say I'm surprised, really. I can't say I'm surprised that they did this, but hopefully they can. I mean, this one got 267k views one day ago. That's good. That's good. It is possible to disagree with someone without being rude. PirateSoftware, beyond all its critique, was rude. That's so true, Josh. PirateSoftware and its massive ego being the most unlikable person on the gaming side of the internet is impressive. I hope it passes. I like when the EU does based things, so why not?